Well, in perfect timing. A lawyer by training, Secretary Nielsen has a background in preparedness and security. She also benefits from hands-on experience running the department, possibly more than any other secretary did before taking the job. She was, among other things, most recently Chief of Staff to Secretary Kelly. And she is the 6th Secretary of Homeland Security and the 2nd who happens to be a woman. We saw each other last summer in Aspen, and I think neither of us imagined what the next 6 months would bring. But here we are. Today's conversation is a chance for a sophisticated audience to hear what's on the Secretary's mind with a particular focus on the terror threat. After her remarks, Michael Chertoff, the 3rd Secretary of Homeland Security, former federal circuit court judge, former Assistant Attorney General, and I will ask a few brief questions. We are mindful of the short time for this event, which is only 30 minutes. But Secretary Nielsen will make some introductory comments right now, hopefully from the podium.
I think I'm not going to try.
I think she'll make them. I think she'll make them from the table as I sit down.
Just in case.
And we will follow up. Please welcome the 6th Secretary of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jane. Thank you to the Aspen Institute, the Wilson Center, of course, Secretary Chertoff for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Before I begin, I wanted to quickly update you on our efforts to achieve border security and immigration reform. Last Thursday, as you know, the President introduced a legislative framework, which was the result of many, many hours of input from frontline men and women of DHS, as well as many, many conversations with bipartisan members, bicameral members of Congress. Leaders on both sides of the aisle continue to tell me that we all agree on the problem, that we all want to secure the border. We all want to remove criminal aliens. We all want to help people brought to America as children. And we all want an immigration system that is good for our economy and actually works. But the devil is in the details, which is why we're working hard to iron out the differences. I'll be on the Hill later today, further this week, and we'll continue to work as quickly as we can from our side to help provide the technical assistance so we can answer any questions and help Congress in their role in legislating immigration. I do want to express one point more than others on this topic, which is that we cannot let this moment slip away. Now is the time. It is time. We cannot afford to kick the can down the road any further, and we can't allow partisan politics with an eye to the next election of either party to prevail over principle and what is best for our country. So I look for your support in helping us to continue focus on that issue. So I'm here, though, to talk about the terror threat, as Congresswoman Harman mentioned, and let me just give you the bottom line up front. Make no mistake, America is at war. We are at war with an enemy that knows no boundaries and respects no borders. But we are turning the tide against these fanatics. And today I will tell you about what this administration and the Department of Homeland Security are doing to fighting forward to protect our homeland. We recognize to that prevail against this generational struggle, we must be clear-eyed about the danger. Much like the threat from communism and fascism, global jihadists are driven by an insidious ideology, and we must act now. They have perverted a noble major religion to justify murder, to promote repression, and to undermine our way of life, which is why we share common cause with the millions of Muslims around the world who oppose this fanaticism and seek to eradicate it. But this isn't the same enemy we faced on September 11th, 2001. Their ranks have multiplied, their reach has spread, and their tactics have evolved. They direct attacks, they finance attacks, and they inspire attacks. Sadly, this radicalization was allowed to flourish in part because of delay and indecision here in Washington. The result has been a spike in terrorist activity. There have been around 30 terror attacks in the United States since 9/11, and a majority of them, almost 3/4 in fact, have occurred in just the last 5 years. In that time, jihadists have killed or injured hundreds of Americans, including in the Boston Marathon bombing, the assault in Chattanooga on our military servicemen and women, the workplace massacre in San Bernardino, the nightclub shooting in Orlando, and recent attacks in New York City aimed at commuting pedestrians. Our foreign partners have also not been spared. The names of their cities have become trending hashtags when we mourn senseless violence in places such as Paris, Brussels, Istanbul, Nice, Berlin, London, Stockholm, Manchester, Barcelona, and many, many more. These attacks illuminate the shifting threat landscape. Many of these attacks were inspired by online terrorist propaganda and crowdsourced, if you will, on social media by ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and their affiliates. Many were plotted in the darkness of the web using encrypted apps. Many were directed against soft targets, public venues, and large events. And many were carried out using homemade weapons and do-it-yourself tactics. This is the new terror threat, and the numbers tell a sobering story of how widespread this Homeland Security challenge has become. Last fiscal year, the FBI had roughly 1,000 investigations of homegrown violent extremists in the United States, and 1,000 ISIS-related investigations. These cases spanned all 50 states. In the same time period, the FBI arrested more than 100 people in our country tied to international terrorism. On an average day, and I want to underscore this, DHS encounters 7 individuals on the terrorist watch list seeking to enter our country by air, land, or sea. That's 50 a week, 2,000 a year, and those are the ones that we catch and know about. The threat volume is so high in large part because the internet has allowed our enemies to thrive in virtual safe havens. Even when they get shut down, news cells tweet their way into existence, spreading propaganda and reaching susceptible new audiences. Terrorism has also gotten easier and more accessible. Jihadists have adopted a bring your own device policy. Take whatever you can get your hands on, a car, a knife, a gun, an axe, and use it to kill in your own communities. They can also create more powerful weapons using simple IKEA-like instructions provided online, often provided by overseas operatives who are using foreign battlefields as testbeds of terror. It's obvious that Islamist militants are changing. The question we must answer is, are we? That's what I will outline today, how we are rethinking our security posture and fighting back. While I plan to talk primarily about the foreign terrorist threat, I want to make very clear that DHS is not focused only on the global jihadist. We are dedicated to combating all forms of terrorism, including domestic terrorists who use violence to harm, intimidate, or coerce our people on account of their race, religion, or creed. We don't just condemn this type of race and hate. We are actively working with our federal and state partners to combat it. And I look forward to updating you in the days to come on new programs we are launching and partnerships we are seeking to do just that. So let's talk quickly about our counterterrorism priorities. Last month, the President unveiled his national security strategy and the wave tops of our bold counterterrorism agenda. DHS is turning these principles into concrete action. Today, I'll outline 4 of the ways in which we are doing this. First, we are thwarting terrorist plots and countering emerging threats. Second, we are blocking terrorists from reaching the United States. Third, we are combating terrorist radicalization and recruitment here at home. And finally, we are aggressively pursuing threats to their source. So our most immediate goal must always be to disrupt attacks before they happen. In the past year, we have helped uncover and thwart deadly terrorist plots alongside our interagency and international partners. And we have put in place protections to defend against the shifting tactics. I have made it a top priority to better fuse intelligence into our operations, and through Undersecretary Glaway, we are looking to have operational requirements drive our intelligence collection. We are taking valuable information uncovered by our warfighters, our intelligence community, and our law enforcement professionals, and using it to adapt quickly to our changes in the threat. Aviation security is a prime example of this approach. Terrorists are continuing to plot against commercial aircraft, and as we saw with the sophisticated plot last summer out of Australia, but as the terrorists change their tactics, so are we. In the past year, we used carefully evaluated intelligence to stay a step ahead of jihadists in the aviation sector. Last summer, we announced some of the most significant targeted aviation security enhancements since 9/11. Our global aviation security plan in 3 phases raises the security baseline worldwide through our new seen and unseen measures. These changes are making U.S.-bound flights more secure against concealed explosives, insider threats, and suspicious passengers. As with many of our enhancements, these changes don't just make Americans safer, they raise security for everyone, America and throughout the world. And DHS is leading this fight in aviation security. We are also hardening soft targets, including concert venues, sporting events, and other crowded and public spaces that have increasingly become an unfortunate focus for terrorists. Last year's bombing at the Ariana Grande concert in the UK, where 22 people lost their lives, was a wake-up call for many, and one in a string of high-profile attacks against mass gatherings. DHS launched an end-to-end review of our soft target security efforts, and based on the results of that review, we are pushing new measures throughout the department. This includes better focusing our security operations and protection of large venues and events, streamlining our assistance and capacity building efforts, and providing more timely and actionable information to state, local, and private sector partners. I raised this issue just last week with CEOs at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos. My immediate takeaway is while they are focused on the challenge, there is much more to do to collaborate between government and the companies to keep up with the dynamic threat. But we can't just react. We must anticipate. The threat is changing vastly too quickly, and we must plan for the dangers ahead. Terrorists have embraced low sophistication attacks because they are easy to replicate, yet they have not given up on advanced operations. This includes developing weapons of mass destruction, and ISIS has used chemical weapons on the battlefield in Syria and Iraq, and they have attempted to use them for attacks in the West. We are anticipating these emerging threats. In December, we launched a major reorganization of the department to create the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office, which is already developing forward-leaning initiatives to safeguard our homeland against chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear agents. Terrorist organizations are also weaponizing technologies, such as drones, to attack with IEDs on foreign battlefields. It's only a matter of time before they try to incorporate these methods into Western attacks. In cases such as these, DHS is not standing on the sidelines. We are working with Congress, the White House, and interagency partners to develop authorities to identify, track, and take down drones that pose a threat to our public safety. Our second counterterrorism priority is to block terrorists from reaching the United States. A lot has been done in this area under this administration. This month, I released a report with the Attorney General revealing that between 9/11 and the end of 2016, at least 549 individuals were convicted of international-related terrorism charges in the United States. A clear majority of those cases, 73%, were foreign-born. This is a red flag. We must do more to keep dangerous individuals out of the United States in the first place and to prevent foreign allies from radicalizing once they get here. These are individuals who attempted to bring down U.S. flights, planned bombings on iconic locations such as Times Square, and assaulted or tried to attack public venues, military bases, and law enforcement officers. The good news is that we are making significant progress in combating this threat. After taking office, the President directed sweeping improvements to block terrorists and criminals from reaching our country. Today, everyone entering the United States, whether they are tourists, business visitors, immigrants, or refugees, and importantly, regardless of what country they come from, face tougher vetting and tighter screening. We have made immigration applications more rigorous by requiring additional background information, which allows us to better assess who's coming into our country and to uncover suspicious activity. The top line here is it is our responsibility and duty as the United States to be assured of who is entering our country and why, if they are who they say they are. We have made interviews more in depth, helping us identify hidden terror ties, signs of violent radicalization, and fraud. And we've intensified background checks by fusing more intelligence and law enforcement data into the process. Today, I'm also announcing security upgrades to the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. In 2017, the President directed us to assess the program and make any needed changes. As a result of that review, and in close coordination with the State Department and our intelligence community, we will be rolling out new security measures for applicants from high-risk countries, which will seek to prevent the program from being exploited by terrorists, criminals, and fraudsters. These changes will not only improve security, but importantly, they will help us better assist legitimate refugees fleeing persecution. DHS is also requiring our international partners to step up to the plate. At the President's direction, we have created a first-of-its-kind global baseline for all foreign countries to cooperate with the United States on information sharing for immigration vetting. Now, every country in the world must meet minimum requirements to share counterterrorism data, improve identity document security, and more, or face consequences. I'm pleased to say with the State Department, we have worked successfully with almost every country in the world to reach this baseline, which has improved both U.S. and international security. The handful of high-risk nations that have failed to comply are subject to tough but tailored travel restrictions, and we continue to work with them to reach the baseline. America has a proud history of welcoming those who want to visit or become a part of our endearing democratic public. This will not change, but we will not tolerate countries who refuse to cooperate with us to stop terrorists, criminals, and other threats from traveling to our country and entering our communities undetected. And I want to be clear, these restrictions have nothing to do with race or religion. This is about information sharing and knowing who, as an individual, is coming into our country. Last month, I also announced new security requirements for the 38 countries in the visa waiver program, including measures that will improve the use of U.S. counterterrorism data worldwide to detect terrorists when they try to cross international borders, not just into the United States, but within countries globally. As the final line in the sand, we are seeking to increase border security with the wall system, more infrastructure, technology, and more personnel to make sure nefarious actors don't slip across our borders illegally. Quickly, let's talk about combating terrorist radicalization and recruitment at home, as we all know, a growing problem. Our counterterrorism efforts cannot be solely focused on preventing foreign terrorists from entering our country physically, but we must prevent their radicalization when they reach our shores. Groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda are remotely inspiring susceptible minds in our communities, and they're guiding wannabe foot soldiers through apps on their cell phones. We need to fight back. That's why DHS is ramping up efforts to combat terrorist radicalization and recruitment here at home. We recently announced the new DHS Office of Terrorism Prevention Partnerships, which we will take a lead on this front. First and foremost, we are prioritizing education and community awareness, including helping people recognize the signs of radicalization and suspicious behavior. We are working with and learning from our international partners and taking those best practices and implementing them here at home. We're developing new targeted methods for getting the message out and making sure communities and frontline defenders understand the changing threat. We are also focusing on counter-recruitment, including empowering credible voices to refute terrorist lies and propaganda. As part of this effort, we have significantly stepped up engagement with the tech sector as they work to take down terrorist activity and actively counter it. We thank them for their partnership. In 2 weeks, I'll be flying to Silicon Valley to continue conversations with the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, led by Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Twitter. I am pleased to report that in the past year, we have seen considerable progress as a result of this partnership. Companies are taking concrete action to make their platforms less hospitable to terrorists. Additionally, we are emphasizing the importance of early warning and intervention. By the time the person detonates a bomb, we're too late. So if we can help the public first and foremost understand and report suspicious activity, we can be that much ahead of the game. And finally and ultimately, though our best shot at terrorism prevention is to pursue threats to their source. When groups such as ISIS appear to be winning, they are able to attract new foot soldiers from around the world. To reverse this tide, we have made it clear that they are losing, and that's what this administration has done. We have taken the fight to the enemy, and we are decimating their safe havens. ISIS fighters are fleeing Syria and Iraq, where their once controlled large swaths of territory are being attacked, and their ranks are shrinking fast as the so-called caliphate crumbles. But this is not the end, and I want to be clear here, this is just the end of the beginning. We are entering a new phase of the fight. Jihadists are going underground, dispersing to other safe havens, including on the internet, and returning to their home countries. So we must focus on rooting them out. The counterterrorism policies of other countries have never mattered more to our own security than they do today. Let's be clear on this point. A terrorist on the loose in a foreign land is a terrorist that poses a threat to our homeland. Partnerships have become increasingly important as we seek to raise the baseline of security throughout the world. Our biggest concern is that too many nations have weak border security, don't adequately screen international travelers, and fail to share intelligence quickly. That is why we continue to set higher standards and condition certain cooperation with foreign governments on their willingness to close security gaps. At the same time, we are offering them help to build their capacity, including to comply with recent UN security resolutions. Our communities in the West are now the front lines of this fight. So in the coming months, we will accelerate efforts to make sure our foreign partners realize this and take action. I want to close today by asking you to think about the men and women who have answered the call to defend our country against terror threats, especially those here at DHS. I simply cannot say enough about our workforce. They are professional, they are hardworking, they are dedicated, they are passionate. They wake up every day and literally keep danger from our shores. It is my goal to empower them to execute the missions Congress and the American people have entrusted to us, because when we support them in doing their jobs, it makes our nation safer. The terror threat may have changed, but our resolve of our citizens and our frontline defenders has not. We are tracking the danger every day, and we will be relentless in combating it. To those combating against us and plotting against us, my message is simple. We are looking for you, we will stop you, and we will work with our partners to bring you to justice. I'd just like to close by thanking all of you for your time today, your support of DHS, and your ongoing partnership in securing our homeland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. In the interest of time, I'll just ask one question. I think Mike Chertoff will ask one, and we'll try to put together quickly some combo of audience questions.
Please.
This is a very sophisticated and experienced audience, and certainly the committee I tried to introduce is. And I think we're all interested and supportive of virtually everything you had to say. I just would point out, you said that there had been some delay and indecision in Washington in the past. My view is the threats have evolved, and Washington has tried hard on a bipartisan basis to build the capacity against them, and that you are benefiting from 5 Secretary of Homeland Security's efforts to make our country safer, and I would like to thank all of them, including the one to my far left. This is my question. Closing the government is bad for Homeland Security and good for terrorists. We saw the movie a week ago. It hurt employees at the Wilson Center and many other people. On February 8th, our government might close again unless agreement is reached on a package that includes many of the things in the president's proposal from last week. This evening, 25 senators on a bipartisan basis are meeting to see if they can come up with the right package that would get enough votes in the Senate and in the House to keep our government open after February 8th. Are you working with that group, and are you flexible in terms of trying to find a way to help them fashion and support what they come up with?
Yes, thank you. I have said it, and I'll say it again. I'm willing to work with anybody who wants to address this issue. I've made myself available to that group. We're also meeting with the original 4 seconds, if you will, including Senator Durbin later today. We're meeting with the White House to talk further about the proposal that was issued last week. This is a compromise. What the president has offered is a compromise after listening to many parts, both on the right and the left. But we'll continue to work towards, yes, whomever wants to work with us to get something passed.
Michael.
Great, I'll be real quick. First of all, thank you for a very clear-eyed vision of what the threat is and a very clear path forward. I'm going to turn to a different topic really quickly. A little less than a year ago, the administration put out an executive order about cybersecurity. What is your vision in terms of where we are and where we ought to be in cybersecurity going forward?
Thank you. So this, as Secretary Chertoff knows, I could talk about all day, so I'll just give you a couple thoughts on cybersecurity. You know, the threat has evolved. We really are at a point, because of the hyperconnectivity, the Internet of Things, our dependence on the Internet, where, and I've said it before, we're in an environment where your risk, and I'm pointing to each of you, is now my risk, and my risk is your risk. So the mandate for partnership is much higher than it ever has been before. We do have a serious problem with a weakest link. We must all increase our cybersecurity. I'd ask everybody who hasn't already adopted the NIST framework to do that as a start. A lot of this is what we call hygiene, which is the basic patching and keeping up with security solutions that are provided throughout the community. But I think we need to morph in recognizing what the threat is today to look more at the systemic risk. So the blocking and tackling is no longer getting us where we need to be. The attackers are already in our networks. So preventing them from entering, we're missing the fact that they're already there waiting to cause us harm. So we need to act together. When we prepare individually, we will fail collectively on this. It must be in partnership. But systemic risk means looking at those essential functions that cross sectors that really could provide single points of failure and will also have unintended and perhaps unknown and unmeasurable cascading effects. So we're morphing towards those type of threats, which is where I feel that we have a heightened governmental role, but we'll continue to work through the partnership models that have always been very successful at DHS to do that. But I think we have to recognize that we're in a place where it's not a question if we will be attacked, it's how often we're being attacked each day and how much we can withstand. So we need to innovate as we're failing, we need to anticipate as we're being attacked, and it needs to be a much proactive defense, if you will, as we look forward.
And I'd say we need to build resilience.
Absolutely.
We are building. All right, if we can. Three shortest questions, one from each end and one in the middle. Identify yourself and ask in a simple sentence your question. Raise your hand. Okay.
Michael Lachansky. I'm a Cincy Fellow at the Wilson School at Princeton University. Given the effectiveness and how well it polls, why is there less congressional enthusiasm for E-Verify than you'd expect?
Oh, let's just take them all
Sure.
together. On this side, okay?
Oh, hi, yes. Yegana Torbetsy. I'm a reporter with Reuters. I was just wondering, given the immigration and terrorism report that DHS released last week also includes in that tally a number of individuals who were brought in from abroad for prosecution in the United States. And I'm wondering, given that significant number of people who are included in that list of 540 or so, does that lead you also to your conclusions on the immigration system in particular? What does that say? That really doesn't seem to have any bearing on the U.S. immigration system. I was wondering if you could comment on that. Thank you. Sure.
And in the back, in the middle, somewhere, right there. I see you in the last row.
Thank you. Michael Kaczmarek with the European Parliament. A question, the national security strategy has been published. Will there be an update on the counterterrorism strategy and when it is due?
Okay.
Sure. So on E-Verify, it's a good question, and I would break it into two. One is the issue of permanently authorizing the program so that employers who voluntarily would like to participate can. We're in a situation where we have to constantly, almost yearly, reauthorize the program, which prevents effective implementation. We have to rethink the resources each time, stop and go. So that would be my first ask. My second ask in terms of mandatory E-Verify, certainly from where I sit, it seems a very sensible way to work with employers to ensure who we are employing in this country. I can't speak to those who are very much opposed, but I can tell you with the current negotiations, it does look as though the conversation around mandatory use will have to be a phase 2 of the conversation. With respect to the 549, we're digging into the data. We're looking at it very carefully to understand some of the international related charges, as you know, become very complicated. So although the attack might have been plotted abroad, they could be in the United States when they were plotting it, or there might be co-conspiracies here. The reverse is true as well. Sometimes they were located outside of the United States, but were plotting an attack in the United States with people in the United States. So your point is a very good one. We just need to hash out the data more to make the points very clear. And on the CT strategy, yes, we are updating. The White House has a lead on updating the CT strategy. We hope to have that soon. We'll have a nesting of strategy. We have the national security strategy. We'll have an updated cybersecurity strategy and CT strategy in the months to come.
Well, Michael may have some concluding remarks too.
Just thank you very much.
but-
Really great presentation.
And I would just add that this is the hardest problem. And of course, a woman is up to it. And the department has been improving over the years. I mentioned that before, and I think it's important to say, as the Secretary thanks the workforce, I think we should thank the workforce over all the years since 9/11. And finally say that one of the critical ways we will defeat, or at least reduce, this attack on our homeland is to live our values. And that's another thing the Wilson Center focuses on. It's very important that things like the rule of law and an inclusive, pluralist society be part of the definition of America. We, after all, don't want to become what these people who are attacking us are. And we have to recognize in a clear-eyed way that some tough strategies have to be tried and are being tried to find them before they hurt us and to subject them to justice if they hurt us. But it is also true that we should tell our story in the best possible way and win the argument with some of these young kids who are tempted on the internet to move to the wrong side. And hopefully we will do that. And I applaud Secretary Nielsen for the work she's doing and for coming here to share a really impressive list of measures. And this advisory committee sitting in the front rows is, again, willing to, I'm part of it, willing to be as helpful as we possibly can as you continue your work. So thank you again for coming to the Wilson Center.
Well,